All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Guru. I have the good brother Awini Baba on with us, all the way from Ghana tonight. And the subject is: did Africa replace European oppressors with African oppressors? This is a interesting topic because, from what it seems, African leaders hold the interest of foreign corporations, European nationals. They, I guess, hold their interest uh, in more regard than the interests of Africans on the continent. So, do they see more eye? Do they see, I guess, are their interests more in line with the European, or are their interests more in line with the African on the continent? So, we're going to cover that and unpackage that and break that down tonight with the brother Awini Baba. Awini, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Yeah, greetings to everybody. It's been some days. I really wanted to be on last week, but it didn't materialize. Um, this topic is quite broad actually, and in order to look at it, we have to set certain ground or basic understandings. Um, we have to remember at the center of this is the ignorance of the ordinary African. I don't know if I'm being heard.
Yeah, you're being heard. Go ahead. Go ahead.
At the center of this problem is the ignorance, and I think it's not intentional, but the ordinary African does not know how to hold leadership accountable. Now, it is this that then lends wind to what we're seeing. So I want to make that clear that at the center of the problem is the African who is the ultimate beneficiary or the ultimate victim of this issue of oppression, or we can use neglect or corruption or whatever. If we look at what Africans went through even before the coming of the Europeans, this is an aspect. We don't want to create the impression that before the Europeans came, Africans were living in peace. That's a lie. That's a very big lie that we need to admit that our society was not a perfect society. It was a good society, I must admit. I mean, a lot of the political, the tenets that existed pre-colonial Africa seem to have been working for whatever the reason. If you study Sheikh Anta Diop's work, pre-colonial Black Africa, and some other work written on, for instance, the Empire of Ouagadougou or Ghana. The original name for the Ghana Empire is Ouagadougou. This is the proper name. Now, if you study most of this work, it gives an impression of how Africans were ruling. How were our, leaders, and you begin to get a sense of how we used to do it before, the Europeans came to us. And if you look at it carefully, it did have faults, but it had the human side to it too. Because most leaders I know, you can even go from there to Mansa Musa, Sunjata, all of these. Yes, the emphasis was on demonstrating wealth, right? So in the famous pilgrimage, You find all this gold following him. He's spending all these and showing off, right? People will ask the question, what was the state of the ordinary, citizens of Mali at the time that he was doing this? And it begins to raise questions about how it is that we related to ourselves in terms of leadership and the and how it is that we are relating to ourselves now, and whether there's a correlation, and whether the coming of the European created, a vacuum for more opportunity. I want to.
We're losing you just a little bit, Awini, the connection.
Okay. How's it now?
That's a little better. Go ahead.
So we need to look carefully at Africa, at least, even if we can't go all the way back to Kemet, which we can, but it will be a long discussion. West Africa, for instance, and how these empires ruled, and what was the quality of life of the people, and what was the degree of their involvement in decision making and so on. What I do know about pre-colonial Africa is that the kings or the rulers ruled through a senate, and kings could lose their power through that group of elders called the Senate, and they did confer with the Senate in a way of checking their power and ensuring that they're doing the right thing all the time. So the control mechanisms were there for to the best of my knowledge, they were there, and you don't find this insatiable greed in pre-colonial Africa that you find today. Leaders took pride in making a good name and saying they want to go down in history as people who fought for their people, as people who made a difference in the lives of their people. They want to hear, he was a great ruler. That's the story they want to hear when they're gone. So, in my view, and from the little I have read, there was an emphasis on greatness, leaders trying to project some greatness. And I do admit some of it was extravagant, which happens with almost every leadership all over the world, but a lot of it was also very humane, as in how the citizens were treated, and how wealth throughout the kingdom. Now, with the coming of the European, things began to change, and we saw people enter Africa not to aid us in any way. They came as opportunists, and they use all manner of tools, including religion. They came as merchants, they came as priests, and so on. And before we realized, people were being, the story. Some of these stories, are so painful to recount that we don't really. We need to do this in a different session. But the essence of what I'm trying to say is this: Europeans came here to facilitate their own progress. Things were not going well for them in Europe.
Right.
So they came here. They came here and they used all unimaginable, brutal means to dominate the people here. And I have to admit that they were successful because they had Africans working for them.
Yeah.
If you look at African history, no outsider has ever been successful in penetrating Africa without the help of Africans. This is a fact.
Facts. And Winnie, that's something that we just have to come to grips with.
Yep. Some of our people, some of them did not have a choice. Some of them were forced to participate. Let's not forget about the Arab invasions also that led to a lot of brutalizations. And let's not forget the Arab partnership they formed with the Portuguese in East Africa, that saw a lot of brutal things take place, including slave trade. We're not forgetting that.
Right.
But in all, what we saw in a lot of the cases were the people along the coast of Africa, they resisted the coming in of, these foreigners. Once they began to understand what it is they were doing, they resisted. And some of them were successful in their resistance in a way. Others, most were not.
Mm.
And as a result of losing in that resistance effort, they also became victims or forced to do things they not do normally. This is something that people must ask. There are degrees of participation. Some people participated out of greed. Others participated out of necessity.
Right.
You see, and somebody's going to say, there's no excuse for that. But sometimes there can be excuses, because imagine if you are threatened that if you don't participate in some of these acts, such as slavery, your own people will be enslaved. Your children will be sold as slaves. You see? So it creates this, debacle that becomes very, very difficult. Now, because our people, they were so successful because our people were involved, either voluntarily or not. They were involved.
Right.
And these acts are just beyond measure. I mean, we lived through hell, man. We lived through hell, and our people taken away lived through even greater hell, And at the dawn of independence, we were so happy. Africa was so happy, that, we had regained control of our continent, and the freedom wave, independence wave swept over Africa, and we were, rejoicing, and we were hopeful. Why? The early crop. Now you have to understand how the Europeans ruled Africa, and why some of us are not too quick to criticize some leaders. Most of Europe, I'd say Africa was colonized for getting to 400 years for a lot of parts of Africa. Within this 400-year period, there was virtually no health facility for traditional, like, African people. There was no education for African people. A few people got education, privileged people, sons of sellout kings, mm-hmm. and kingdoms, priests, people who were being trained to become priests and religious people, all part of the agenda. A few selected people were picked, selected a few, and brainwashed them to come and help the colonial project. We are our own enemy, right? So you look at it, this 400-year period, and you don't see an effort to develop Africa or give Africans a better quality of life.
Right.
And some people don't understand how come Africa was so weakened even before colonialism, Africa has been attacked on several fronts for thousands of years. If you study the history of Egypt and all the way to East Africa, we have fought wars with several people. We have also fought wars among ourselves over land, mostly over land, because there were lots of migrations, late migrations. I would say within the space of the last 1,000 years, there has been a lot of displacement, a lot of migration. And so the resettlement of African people, especially moving in from the northeast, has caused a lot of problems in terms of our relationships with each other. If you come to northern Ghana, for instance, most people don't understand northern Ghana. There are probably more tribes in the northern sector of Ghana than the whole of Ghana put together, the rest of Ghana put together. Why? Because the movement into Ghana came from the north. Most people came in from the north and migrated down south. Now, those who came much
Awini, you there?
have to settle in these parts. So you'll find a lot of skirmishes over land among our people. So I'm just trying to give a picture of some of the things that happened prior to colonialism that weakened Africa. We were not living in the time of peace to build on our own, and we have demonstrated whenever we have had peace, we have gone about building civilizations all throughout. You study African history all throughout. You find a people that are living in harmony and peace. They begin to build, they begin to emerge, and you find it. Ancient Egypt was destroyed, ancient Nubia was destroyed. It came down to Kush, which is now Ethiopia, also invaded and destroyed. Mali was destroyed. Ancient Ghana was destroyed. Ancient Sangay was destroyed. You find this, the Africans trying to build their own system. And each time you find invasions, especially invasions, destroying this civilization. Yes, we have had internal quarrels and so on, but these quarrels would not warrant a destruction of the civilization. So I'm trying to put this in there to mean that Africans were not helpless and waiting for a European to come and give us something. That's one thing I want to make clear, because the colonial thought is that Africans, were just a bunch of people sitting around and waiting for some white man to come and save us. That was not the case. We had moved here and had began to, get our bearings. Most people don't understand. Lots of parts of West Africa have been recently occupied by people who had to move away from their original homes. And this has caused a lot of tension.
Let's start off with the Lebanese.
Yeah. You have the issue of the Lebanese also that came here during their struggle. And they get support from the government to do business and whatnot. That's something that's useful. We don't. And some of us who look at Africa from a holistic point of view, even before the coming of the Europeans, Africans were doing some things on their own.
Of course.
You see? You come to my mom comes from a famous village in northern Ghana. I'd say northwest corner of Ghana, and they are bone setters. Like you can bring somebody who crushed his bone to powder, and they'll set it, and he'll be brand new. You know, it's painful, but that's a sacrifice that people need to get. So you find like innovations or knowledge systems all over the place. Uh, I believe that we would have resolved our issues enough at a time to begin to build again, as we have always done throughout history. You see, but the Europeans came here, they forced their way in to exploit Africa, and they oppressed our people for over 400 years. And so at the dawn of independence, we thought we had turned the corner, and we had enough reason to believe so, because my grandfather was in the Second World War for the British.
Oh wow!
And yeah, and did he know anything about the Second World War? No.
Probably not. They just said you gotta put on your boots and get your gun and go fight.
And he was picked because he was huge, right? And that was just the criteria. Like, we're picking strong men to go fight our war. And so when they got back, they went. This is one thing that set the independence thing in motion. The idea of superiority of Europeans was challenged right there and there, because they went to war and they fought alongside Europeans, and they killed a lot of these Europeans, right, in the war. And so when they got back home, they were like, no, man, like, there's nothing like special or supernatural about these people. This is one of the catalysts. And so when they got home, they were supposed to be paid for, going to the war, and they were not paid. So they went on a demonstration in Accra, and three of them were shot dead in that demonstration. They went on a protest. You see, so these are the events that led to our independence, and we did have reason to believe that our situation was going to improve, and it did improve. For instance, in the case of Ghana, we saw enormous development. Enormous. Look, I come from
Awini, real quick.
Ghana.
Awini, your grandfather who fought in World War II, was he at least given his pension? Because I know a lot of African soldiers weren't paid or given their pensions.
Yeah, like I think they were given something eventually. I don't remember anything called a pension then. But what I do know is that because they didn't receive anything, and then later on, I think some arrangement was made. But even listening to some of the veterans today, they still feel they were they were treated unjustly and used in a war that had nothing to do with them. So our people were so happy. I mean, when we turned the corner, if you look at the degree of development before Africans took over, it was deplorable. I mean, it was deplorable. And when Nkrumah took over, things changed drastically within the time that he was there. Look, he expanded education. Education prior to our independence was a thing for the privileged. And you had Ghanaian privileged people who didn't see the need for everybody to get an education. Nkrumah said, everybody's getting an education. And people even argue with Nkrumah and said, but you can't maintain the quality you're going to spoil this thing. And he said it's better to get a little education than to have no education at all. And so he defied, and it's interesting to find out what the colonials thought about education for instance, people from up north. Most of our people were thought of, there was such a thing as indentured servitude, even under colonialism. A lot of people from northern Ghana had to move down south to work on farms there, plantations there, controlled by, some of our people and Europeans. There was a partnership there. Most of the people from where I come from, they were viewed as people who are supposed to be laborers, you see, in that arrangement. And Nkrumah came and broke that. My dad was a beneficiary of Nkrumah's, policies. I mean, education was totally free. My dad went all the way to university for free,
right.
And you find a lot of development taking place. So you see, and of course, not everybody is happy because you have an opposition in the government, in the country that has their own agenda, right? So all throughout, I'll say for most of Africa, things were looking good. You see, the European oppressor had to leave. You see, and we got African leaders. I will call them leaders. What happened? This power gap was then filled with African oppressors when our African leaders were assassinated one after the other.
Right.
And you find it, you look at all over Africa, you see it. Nkrumah had to go. You go down even to South Africa, early revolutionaries also had to go. Chris Hani had to go.
Mm-hmm.
Sobukwe had to go. Patrice Lumumba had to go.
Sankara.
Thomas Sankara had to go. You see, not to mention, some great people like Sheikh Anta Diop had to go. Sheikh Anta Diop was on his way to become a politician in Senegal. He had to go. And
I didn't know that. He was he ran out of Senegal? Was he exiled from Senegal?
He wasn't ran out, but he was held under house arrest, from what I know.
Oh wow!
He had this rivalry. Yeah, he had this rivalry with Leopold Senghor.
Oh wow!
Because he would not, agree to this post or neo-colonial project. So yeah, Sheikh Anta Diop was a revolutionary by all means. Academics and politics. You see, so you look at Africa, it was looking good after independence, I have to admit, and I'm proud of that fact. And this is why I believe, because we set a good precedent, a good example, post-colonialism, it will eventually come back to the way it used to be, because the people that were killed, look, it was brutal. There are documentaries on, Belgium, the United States, Britain, and others admitting that they did assassinate, for instance, Patrice Lumumba.
Yeah.
And they did it. Yeah, they did it in
and the thing, they're so nonchalant about it. Yeah, well, he was going to partner with the communists, so we had to take him out. Just so nonchalant about it. No regard.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how people tell you, and this is the irony of the democracy that some people preach. They tell you democracy is about having choices, right? Having the right to choose what you want. But then they turn around and tell you, but you can't choose this or that.
Right.
That's not freedom at all. You see, and some of us, when we look at how Patrice Lumumba was brutally murdered, I mean, we can't help but cry. And ever since, you look at Congo, Congo has never been the same, even today.
Or Burkina Faso.
All Burkina Faso are Thomas Sankara killed in the most brutal fashion, like a dog, and buried like a dog. And the French kept Blaise Compaoré in government for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Would I be say 20 years? Because I think from around 1987.
No, it might have been long. Might have been longer than
about 30 years.
Close to 30, yeah, close to 30.
Close to years, because 1987 to recently, that's definitely more than 20, close to 30. And you see how these things pan out. The same thing with Congo. Mobutu also stayed in power for several years. You didn't hear the West talk about democracy, and that these people needed to go. This is why I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon of Mugabe must go. I wouldn't, because I would be feeding into the narrative of people who have hatched a plan that they are proceeding to champion. And I don't jump on those bandwagons, you see. So you look at it carefully and you see how all these people were brutally murdered for what? For just being for the interests of Africa. That's plain and simple. They said, we're not going to sell out our people. That's just plain and simple. And it's going to come back. If you look at the manner in which our people were treated just for being, for our interests. And I started by saying at the center of this is the ignorance or the political naivety of the African. Because you can tell me that out of, in Ghana, only Nkrumah and a few do something. So were politically astute and politically awake.
We also can't forget Gaddafi.
The story would have been, they would be able to see through the maneuverings and the propaganda, and they will be able to counter it, and it wouldn't have had the effect that it had at the time. And even today, people are still politically naive. People don't understand politics, and they are caught in this divide and rule syndrome. Our early African leaders were indeed replaced by African oppressors, because these new crop that replace our independence, fighters such as Nkrumah and others, they began to sing a different tune. They began to give us excuse after excuse after excuse why things are not going the way they're supposed to go. And they're still giving the excuses. I'm just wondering when the people are going to run out of patience. See, they're still giving us excuses why things are. I watch some documentaries and I get really sad. I mean, I just got a documentary from a brother, of mine in the United States, how some of our people are washing ashore, trying to get to Europe.
Yeah, sick.
Some of them, just trying to get into Europe. They discovered them. They were in a boat. They let them drown. Just to get to Europe, just to get a better life that our people have consistently sold us out and refused to do what they must do for their people. And so some of us, in all honesty, we have no respect for these people. They are oppressors of their own people. And if you look at them today now, look at them. If you study Thomas Sankara's policies of cost reduction or expenditure reduction, or austerity measures, Thomas Sankara said, look, you didn't come to government to drive a BMW, a big car. That's not why you're here. To serve the people. So everybody is going to use a simple vehicle from now on. If you don't like it, leave politics. It's not a place to come and live rich. And it's the same thing that I am glad to say the Tanzanian president, John Magufuli, is saying today. The public sector is not for money making. If you want money, go to the private sector. There's nothing wrong with making. You can't just come and milk the public coffers for yourself. Go and do business. If you want to get rich, go and do legit business, and you can live the way you want. So if you look at the caliber, the nature of those early African leaders, and you compare to today, how some of our people even own private jets, they own, mansions all over the world. A lot of their children don't school in Africa. They take their children to Europe to even go to high school, and so on and so forth. Then you begin to see that these are not people who love their country. It's just plain and simple. People who love their country will not develop expensive tastes at the expense of the development of their people. They would never do that.
Right.
They wouldn't travel with an entourage. You should see how some of these presidents move. He's moving, let's say, from Accra to Tamale, and he has more than 50 cars going with him. And a lot of these cars are V8s, and they just suck fuel like crazy. But the cost of all of this is utterly unnecessary. But we know why it's like that, because our leaders in Africa today just replaced the colonial oppressors. That's all they did. And they have systematically sold us back to the colonialists. That is what is happening. And if you look closely at how certain countries emancipated themselves, look at China. There was a period in China's history where China just closed the borders for close to, I think, about 20, and they were doing their own thing. We don't see that here. We don't see it. Next, I'm going to do a discussion on the economics of agriculture alone.
Okay.
And we can even do estimates of how much it costs Africa to import food alone, and the impact that this could have on the African economy.
Yes. I'm in Senegal.
Why are we importing?
Yeah, listen, I'm in Senegal. I'm eating rice from, I think, Colombia or Central America somewhere.
Yeah. So we should ask the question, why are we not producing our food? And the answer again is because these leaders are in partnership with these importers, and they're making money. That's as simple as that. There's no other explanation. There's no other reason why. We have the climate, we have the land, we have all of that, and we cannot subsidize farming inputs to make it possible for our farmers to produce more. There is absolutely no reason other than the fact that our people are just greedy as hell. Simple as that. And in some cases, they are worse than European oppressors. Yes, in some cases, some African leaders have been 10 times worse in terms of their approach to governance. You see? So, in my view, and to kind of wrap this up for this section, we seem to be under the impression that our primary problem is the European. That's not true. Our primary problem is us. Our primary problem comes from our inability to educate ourselves and hold ourselves accountable in whatever we do. That is our primary problem. If we are able to get it together, nobody can come in and mess with us. See?
Right.
And that's why I started by saying the ignorance or political naivety of the African is what has permitted this to continue till this day. Because if the people were to wake up tomorrow and make demands and say, okay, this is what is going to happen, leaders, we put you there, and this is what we want. Leaders are going to have no choice. If they refuse, we could go on, protest for days on end, and the whole country would come to a standstill, and they'll still have to listen. You see? So it is just the political naivety of the people that is giving these African oppressors power. Because people are so distracted, so busy with their religion, they want to go to heaven.
Right.
People concerned about entertainment, like that's the only thing that matters. It has its place. Religion has its place too.
Right.
But God put us here as human beings, and we have to take care of the material also. You see? So you have people confused by these things, distracted by these things. A lot of African young people, when you tell them about politics, they're like, no, I'm not a politician. I don't want to hear anything about politics. You see, I don't believe in politics. That's a classic. That's what most people will say. I don't believe. You see, and this is a very sad position to take. You see, so moving forward, people are going to have to be politically astute, and people are going to have to learn to come together and put aside all this nonsense about tribes, religion, and all of it. It is these that gives the African oppressors power, because you've been fighting petty little things that you shouldn't. You see, and living like medieval emperors. See?
Yes, sir.
So, we need to.
Brother, go ahead and finish. There was a question in the chat room, but go ahead and finish.
Yeah, so I was saying we need to wake up. We need to identify that the problem all along has been us. That's the only problem we have. We need to get our stuff together. When we do, nobody can come and mess with us from outside. See? You were going to ask a question.
Yeah, someone, son of NOK, wanted to know, how do you feel about Paul Kagame? That is named Paul. Yeah, the President of Rwanda.
Kagame.
Yeah, Kagame. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Kagame is, from what I have read, some of the people I have talked to from Rwanda, uh, he's doing okay. There are those who feel Paul Kagame is a dictator again. You see? And some people are accusing Paul Kagame of wanting to invade part of Congo
Bro,
someday.
they said he already did it. Low key.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know how true that is, and I don't know what he seeks to achieve by doing that. Dig more into that, but what I can tell you is that we need to be careful as a people. Every time an African leader has started to make some progress and has said no to imperial powers, because Paul Kagame did say no to the USA over importing used clothing into Uganda.
Right.
We need to be careful. If we are students, no. Every time a leader has begun to make it, then you see a campaign
Right.
from somewhere. The leader, people start calling his names, that. You see? So I don't see why. I'm not saying Paul Kagame is perfect, because nobody can. What I have seen is that he's making. For instance, I heard recently that he closed down a lot of churches and mosques.
Yeah, he did. What needs to happen in Ghana? That BS I see with those churches in Ghana. They close some of the churches down in Ghana too.
Yeah, and people were saying, he's anti-religious, but that's not the case. They were for security or a health standard reasons, and people don't want to deal with the reason. They just want to jump on the act and say, he's anti-this, anti-that. But there are other churches and mosques still operating in Rwanda. You see? So I see this deliberate smear campaign against a man who is trying to do well for his country and do well for Africa. On several African, he's right. He's right. I agree with him a lot on several issues he spoke about in Africa, as far as concerned. For instance, how African leaders would be called to Europe to discuss an African issue. So African summits being held in Europe to go and discuss African issues. I don't see the essence, and why we can't have our dialogue. See? So I wouldn't be too quick to or Paul Kagame. I would, until I have credible evidence. But I am a student of history, how people are made to look back. You were told Gaddafi was a dictator. He was this, he was that. Look at the facts on the ground. The ordinary Libyan did not have to pay for education.
Right.
When he was born till he finished school. So what else do you want from, a country or leadership? Want the life to be better. That's basically what we want. And Libya was an example of that. Things were really good in Libya. But people don't get the fray and say all these things and so on and so forth. Things better in Libya now that Gaddafi is gone. Yeah, it's become a failed state. It's ungovernable because two or so people try to control the country at the same time. Gaddafi's son stronghold, the opposition has a strong. I mean, all of this. You see, so we need to be careful about how we smear certain leaders in Africa because we don't know the reason. And one thing I have learned about smear campaigns is those who have the resources to push propaganda against leaders are powerful people. And these powerful people don't represent you and I. They're doing it for expediency.
True.
And they only involve us because it's expedient for them for their project. And I don't join in that. I want to look carefully at the motive behind some of these things because if you give me the chance, I can criticize every world leader on some issue. You see, so that's what I think about Paul Kagame. He's doing well for his country. You know, is there any other question?
No, that's it, man. I mean, brother, anything you wanna? And everybody, thank you for joining us.
So,
It's always a pleasure to have you on, Awini. Like we've been rolling strong now, almost a year. It's been a year, bro. Almost a year.
yeah, definitely.
And when I come to Ghana this year,
Yeah, so
when I come to Ghana this year in December, we have to link up.
yeah, okay, yeah. I'm around. So I wanna touch briefly on the $1 program that we spoke about.
Shout out to Sofarina Powers, who's in the chat room. I know she's donated to a $1 project. I think she's donating $2 a month, which she just started.
Okay.
I mean, we're like at $30, you know. But hey, it's gonna grow. It's gonna grow.
Yeah. So I am confident it'll grow once we reach that audience and we have a structured system. The other day I talked about it. Having a structured system, election, and easy for people to make donations and making it a civic duty of the Black community to contribute to their own development and own their own development. This will not only give them the ability to improve their lives, it will also give them the ability to hold themselves accountable and in so doing hold their elected leaders more accountable because there's no reason why we cannot ask our leaders, how are you spending our money? I don't know if you're scared of them, what have you, but we don't ask. But we should ask. That money doesn't belong to them.
Right.
They were just put in charge by us. We should ask. And that is why I don't blame some of our people. When we come along with some of these ideas and we say, like, we need to do this, I don't blame some of them for being skeptical or for doubting our credibility because our people have been let down time and again. I'm not even going to talk about some of our African American leaders in America who are just leeching our people and talking all of this liberation. They're getting rich off of our people. And some of them, need to be put in check straight up. You see? And so I don't blame some of our people for not engaging enough in some of these initiatives because they've been let down before. But we can win back that confidence. We can demonstrate how this can be done. I did speak about transparency. This is very important. You have people donating money to a cause. They don't have access to the account or whatever is happening. That's wrong. You can't say you want to do something run a program or run a fund for African people, and they don't have access to what is going on. They must have access at all times to the fund, and they deserve to know what is going on at every point in time, and they must be brought into the decision making as well. This will make them feel like they own it. But you don't just come along and make people hand over their money to you, and you only come once a while and tell them a story. No, people must know all the time what is going on. So this is the essential difference in terms of transparency with this program that I need to put out is uh, we're not up to speed yet. I have to admit, because I am talking with some of our people here about getting it, off the ground here as well and so on. But when we do, every month there must be a publication of the account.
Yes.
How much money has come in to the account per month, and what is the state of the account? This must be known. Secondly, as we grow, we have a signatory system that must be put in place to make it impossible for one or two people to go and take money without the information of the others. This is a check. And to make it more transparent, before any money is taken out for anything, it must be made known. You can't keep quiet about it. We must make it known that this was the agreement in this meeting, and such amount was agreed to be taken out for such and such and such. And there must be a publication to that effect, and there must be evidence of people who attended the meeting, constituency representatives that attended the meeting, and their signatures, and their approval, and the number of people who gave their signatures for a withdrawal to be made. I'm saying we are human beings, we are complex in thinking. We can put together a system to make it virtually impossible for anybody to take anything without going through the channels. You see? So we need to win back the trust of our people. They have lost hope, and rightly so. They've lost hope in our people. We lost hope in ourselves. Most of our people don't trust us to manage anything concerning money.
Right.
This is a fact. They don't trust us to do so. We must win back this trust, and the way we can win it back is to open things up. If we have nothing to hide, why can't we open it up? See? And we have nothing to hide. Some of us here, we're talking all this because we're passionate to see our people do better. That's our only motive. And of course, I'm going to benefit. If our people are doing better, I also do better. So that's my benefit right there. We need to be upfront about our motives, or, our reasons for doing some of the things we do. We want to see changes, and the change is going to affect me positively also, because I'm part of the community. You see? So we need to be open and we need to maintain the highest standard of openness. It is only then that our people can begin to trust again. It is only then that our people can begin to trust.
I agree.
And the $1 program is here to stay. It should be imbibed in all our children who begin to manage money, and they should have a responsibility to say, this has been my contribution to the community from age 10. or 11. And this empowers the children to say that I have contributed to my community, through this fund from age 10 every month, $1. And they should be able to also show how that money has benefited them back. So there should be a correlation. See? So we will normalize things, get things up to speed with this within a very short time. I don't want to give a time period because there are lots of consultations about this. The payment methods, the legal issues regarding the program, if you're going to register it, what are the legal implications so you don't get caught by the law? How do you ensure that funds are dispersed without any problems, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of technicalities involved, but none of them are, unsurmountable. There are problems that can be dealt with, you see, but nothing is going to stop us from doing this, because we don't see how else we are going to bridge this financial gap. And we do have the money. It's just in everybody's pocket. We pull it together, it's going to be of a huge difference. So that's as much as I can say about the program. Last time we spoke about it, the way forward was to do a project. Right. And the suggestion was a library project, here. And I have the proposal of that, which I can make available to anybody that wants to see it. You can contact Dynas, he'll contact me. I'll email it to you to have
okay, there we go. So people are interested in a $1 project. In fact, so Freedom Power, send me an email so I can have Awini forward you the information on the project.
I want to also solicit help from those who are IT experts.
Oh, we got Josiah,
especially with websites.
Brother, we got I'll connect you guys offline. Just remind me. But brother Josiah, that's what he does. I got a couple brothers. If you need IT, but go ahead and finish. My bad. I jumped in, interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, but it's in line. Yeah, we just need people who are IT experts and who are who know how to integrate payment methods or means into websites and such. So somebody can click on a website and make a donation. That avenue should be there. How it is we're going to get a website strictly for the $1 program, a worldwide website for the $1 program, and under the worldwide website we have chapters for virtually all the countries in the world where our people are, because we have people all over the world. So we have chapters for virtually every country, or some kind of mechanism to identify people where they are when they make a payment, and there can be a trail, a signature to trace back to who has made what payment. People can have a unique code, and what have you. So I would definitely be glad to talk with the IT experts with regards to getting a website up and running and getting it integrated with the financial software to do this. And we could talk about other means as well. In Ghana, we have a thing called mobile money. This is another angle. People can do that via mobile money and what have you. So I would be really glad if people who have the IT expertise, like you mentioned, Dynast,
Yeah, that's a
I'll
brother.
be glad if they
That's a
get in
brother in
touch.
the chat room. Right? I got plenty of IT people on deck.
All right, yeah, I'd be glad, and we can begin to look at a really safe website because you have this issue of hacking, right? And I have heard and seen several, people get their stuff hacked into. So uh, the focus again, or part of the focus again, should be on getting a secure website, you know, and to protect it against any form of hacking into the system. So I'd be very glad to talk to technical minds about this. So if there's a question, I'd be glad to answer. If not, I think
Oh,
bring it to a
here's the
close.
last question from brother Chief Drino. Appreciate the super chat. Everybody who super chatted, thank you. What's Awini's solutions and approach to tackling the smear campaigns in Africa? And we call it neo-Negroism. How do we deal with smear campaigns in Africa and dealing with people, operatives who keep compromising what me and you are trying to do? You there, brother?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We hear you. Go ahead. We're here.
Hello.
Yeah. We're here. Go ahead, Awini.
Hello.
Yeah. We'll hear you. Go ahead. We hear you. Awini. I think we lost the brother, you guys. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you guys check out Awini. I know Awini has his own platform now on YouTube. Let me what I'll do once I get it, I'll put it in the description box. But make sure you guys reach out to Awini. I know Awini's email is awinibaba@gmail.com. You guys can't hear me? Can you guys see? Press one if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Press one. Okay, they can hear me. That show, Admiral.
Yeah.
Okay, Weenie's back. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, my it got cut off. But just to wrap it up about the smear campaign thing. Yeah, we need to first identify how the mechanism of smearing. Most of the smearing we see is people take the smallest. You see, it's very easy to build a smear campaign against anybody. They'll just look at you and they'll pick the smallest mistake you ever made in your life and they'll blow it up, right? And spin it off, spin so many stories off of that and make so many suggestions. So, in my view, what can be done is to have
All right, guys, we keep losing them, but everybody, make sure you go to Awini. Make sure you email Awini if you have any questions. It's awinibaba@gmail. Make sure I give you guys the right email address because either awini.baba or Awini. Yeah, it's awinibaba@gmail.com. Let me put it in the chat room. Make sure you guys Can you guys hear me or you can't hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. All right. Make sure you go to dynastymirror.com, search for huru.com, go to africapersonified.africa. Make sure you go to amazon.com, search your name, Dynasty Mirror, and then go to search for huru.com on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook, and also on Africa Personified on those same platforms. I think Awini is back. That you, Awini?
Yeah, the reception was unstable.
Awini, do this real quick. Do me a favor so we don't lose you in case we lose you again. Give everybody your YouTube page information.
Yeah, you could type in the Africa $1 program, and you'll find that channel. Subscribe to it. We have not started, putting up material there, videos and so on, but it's in the pipeline. I was hoping to do a new, get it started and get it going. But you could go on there, the Africa $1 program. You type it in as one word.
Okay, cool.
You'll find it, and then you can reach me on their phone or WhatsApp on +233 249 831 251. That's +233 249 831 251. Or you can reach me on awinibaba.com. I have to say quickly, I have received people culture in Ghana, which is very welcoming and good, but the follow-up has not been good, to be honest, except for a brother, I think, found in New York, I think, in Long Island, or who wants to do some business with marketing Fonio, but the follow-up is what has not been encouraging, but I think the interest is there, and I want to believe that people are working, like putting their stuff together to do something. That's what I want to believe, because I do realize that, you also have lives to live and responsibilities to deal with, paying bills and taking care of kids and so on. So that is quite understandable, but the follow-up has been, not so encouraging. There are, and I need to put it out, there are fairly quick means in agriculture here to make money. I'm talking about a time period of, say, 6 months. If you invest in animal breeding, especially birds, I'm talking poultry, within 6 months you should begin to get some sales because they wouldn't mature within this time, and you can make sales and get back most of the money you put in. I say most because if you're going to start, then you're going to have to spend some money building the place, and that's a fixed cost. That's an irrecoverable expenditure that you put there. So if you put in, for instance, 10,000 Ghana cedis, you don't expect to get back all the 10 Ghana cedis in your first sale of guinea fowl. Definitely you won't, because some of that money went into building the infrastructure. which you're gonna have to give it maybe 2 or 3 cycles to get back all of what you put in. But I can guarantee you, I did the numbers for I think a sister who contacted me, and with about, I'll say, five $5,000 dollars, which is about 20,000. Definitely, you could get close to that in the first sale alone. If you put in, for instance, $1,000, uh, and you, by the time you make a sale, you're going to make close to that. You're going to make about $800 if you put in 1,000. That's pretty good considering a large amount goes into building a place to keep the poultry or keep the animals. So that's a business that is, for me, highly lucrative in terms of the payback period or the turnaround time. You don't need to wait that long to get things done. So, I hope people will think about that. People who still have hopes of investing in agriculture, there are means to turn things around real quick, because the meat industry in Ghana is huge, huge, and there is the market for meat, especially guinea fowl, uh, and eggs. It's also huge. So I'd like to keep it at that.
Okay.
I think we should.
All right, brother. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. Awini, thank you for joining us, man. Again, till next time, make sure you guys subscribe to Awini's page, reach out to him. Until next time, family, search for who.
Okay.
Peace.
Everybody, thanks for being here. Bye.
No problem.